Start of the new year, India officially began its two-year term as a non-permanent member of the United Nations Security Council. The country's flag will be installed at the UNSC stakeout on Monday, which is the first working day of 2021. India's permanent representative to the United Nations, Ambassador T.S. Tirumurthy, will be installing the tricolour. In fact, he's also expected to make brief remarks at the special ceremony. India will sit in the 15-nation United Nations Security Council for the 2021-22 term as a non-permanent member, and this is the 8th time that the country has had a seat on the powerful horseshoe table. Also, later in August this year, India will be the UNSC president and will also preside over the council once again for 1 month in the year 2022. So on this edition of The Big Picture, we will be talking about India's two-year term at the UNSC and its priorities during its membership. Joining me for a discussion today are former Ambassador Prabhu Dayal, Mr. Arvind Gupta, Director, Vivekanand International Foundation, and Mr. Shakti Sinha, Director, Atal Bihari Vajpayee Institute of International Studies, Vadodara. Welcome to Rajya Sabha TV, gentlemen. Ambassador, let me begin the program with you. You know, India was elected to the UNSC this time around with an overwhelming majority, 184 of the 192 votes. So what, according to you, are going to be its priorities in this two-year term going forward?
Well, Tina, thank you for having me on your show. Let me mention that our External Affairs Minister, Mr. Jaishankar, has said that India's main priority during its membership will be counter-terrorism. He said that India will strive to achieve a concrete and result-oriented action at the Security Council for an effective response to international terrorism. Now, India is also expected to call for more transparency in listing and delisting of entities and individuals by the UN Sanctions Committee. You know, we have a lot of unhappiness about this process. Of course, getting permanent membership in an expanded council is also high up on the agenda. Now, I would like to recall that on 26 September, Prime Minister Modi had delivered a brilliant virtual address during the general debate of the 75th session of the UN General Assembly, in which he had made an impassioned and forceful plea for India's candidature for permanent membership of the UN Security Council. The composition of the Security Council was established in 1945, and the victors of the Second World War had shaped the UN Charter in their national interests, giving to themselves the veto power in the Security Council. And our Prime Minister has stressed this when he said that the world of 1945 was significantly different from today's world. The global situation, sources, resources, problems, solutions, all were quite different. So keeping this in mind, he had urged that reform in the processes and the very character of the UN is the need of the hour. So I think that we will be emphasizing the need for UN reform and for a permanent membership for India in the UN Security Council, because I think that is the need of the hour, and that is, I think, what a country like India deserves.
Okay, Mr. Arvind Gupta, you know, we'll talk about the UNSC reforms and India's bid, of course, for a permanent seat at the UNSC a little later. But first, your remarks on going forward in the 8th term. We've served 7 terms as a non-permanent member at the UNSC. What, according to you, is going to be different this time around as we begin our 8th two-year term at the Security Council?
Thank you for having me on the show. And I'll pick up this point which Ambassador Prabhu Dayal made, that the environment, the global
will bolster India's long-time candidature now for a permanent seat in a revamped United Nations Security Council that we're talking about?
India's eligibility to be the permanent member of the UN Security Council is there for everyone to see. And we have been involved with the efforts both as individually and as part of G4 for a very, very long time. But let us be real. I don't think UN Security Council reform is anywhere close to what we might like to. So because the P5 are simply not interested, despite some of them paying a lip service, and it is very unlikely that in the next 2 years, UN Security Council reforms would happen or any meaningful push would be given. On the other hand, reformed multilateralism, while it includes the reform of the UN Security Council, also means many other things. And I think this has been identified, number of issues have been identified, and we should really be working on those issues. I think this gives us a chance because today our international image is far better than it ever was. We have handled the COVID-19 situation very well. As Ambassador Prabhudeval pointed out, we have supplied medicine. We are emerging as the pharmacy of the world. And today, in the era of technology, we are building digital infrastructure, which is that experience is useful to many. We are also raising our voice for the removal of the poverty, for the completion of the SDG goals. So we represent the aspirations of many, many countries all over the world. And I think this is the time for us to get back into that community where we also are seen as raising the concerns of the Asia Pacific countries who have voted for us and many other countries, 184 you said. Now we should really be teaming up with those countries, and particularly within the UN Security Council, the newly elected member countries. There is Mexico, there is Vietnam, there is Niger, there is Kenya. So these countries also have their own issues. So I think that is one way to move forward, taking the collective aspirations of the humanity and bringing it there. And let's not forget that in the paper which the MEA had brought out and some slides which they had brought out when the elections were taking place. And here, last point, this is about technology.